come all to learn and grow. Welcome to the Village Talk Show. Come all to learn and grow. Welcome to the Village Talk Show. We discuss what people need to know, empowering them to learn and grow. We discuss what people need to know, empowering them to learn and grow. Give praises to Jehovah, from whom all blessing and knowledge will flow. Blessing and knowledge will flow. The Village Talk Show, dedicating to empowering the community to live a healthy, safe, and financially capable life, helping each one of us in realizing our dream at any age, any point, starting from today, day. Success. Come all to learn and grow. Welcome to the Village Talk Show. Come all to learn and grow. Welcome to the Village Talk Show. We discuss what people need to know, empowering them to learn and grow. We discuss what people need to know, empowering them to learn and grow. Success, if not spoken, it is done. Success is done. Come on now. The Village Talk Show. Talk Show. The Village Talk Show.
Good evening. What's good, villagers? Welcome to another week of the Village. What's good, Dr. Joan, or Dr. Bryant, or Joan Bryant, whichever.
Hey, good evening. Good evening.
What's happening?
Can't complain. Another wonderful, almost end of the week, wonderful 3-day weekend. So, cannot complain. Grateful. I'm going to start off with that, gratefulness. Just being grateful in the space that I'm in with good health.
Certainly.
And yeah, just
certainly.
We can be grateful about. So that's
that's the one thing. That's the number one thing we always got to be grateful for. But thankful here. Welcome to the Village, villagers. Appreciate you joining us. Came on a little bit later again, but we're just gonna dive into the show. One big announcement is that we have a immigration workshop. It's coming up on the 29th, next week, 6 to 8 p.m.
Next week, live.
35 Janice Murray Knight School. So, just want you to RSVP. Join us for a free immigration workshop. We'll provide important updates on policies, pathways to residency or citizenship, and how to access available resources, whether you're seeking guidance for yourself or a loved one. This workshop is a safe space to ask questions and get informed. So, looking forward to you all joining us. And that's one announcement. We'll talk about it again throughout the show itself. So, welcome.
Hey,
John.
Mr. Sampson.
Welcome, family. Welcome.
All right.
So, thank you for saying that, Andre. Next week, we will be live and in person for the Immigration Forum. Please come out and join us. We would love to meet some of our listeners. Please do not be afraid to come in. It will be a good time.
What's the Immigration Forum?
Next week, Thursday.
Yes.
Next week, Thursday, live and in person. You get to meet all of us.
Do we have to worry about Homeland Security?
No, not at all. And in fact, if you don't want to ask a question and you just want to write it down, you could do that too.
That's true.
So come on out next week. Let's talk. Let's meet face to face.
The Homeland Security Commissioner, Christine Noem, is not going to be president, is she?
No one should worry about that. Not at all.
All right.
Not at all.
All right. We also have Namoi Pena, hopefully I pronounced your
Our
name correct.
guest tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's coming on a little bit. We're just gonna really highlight some more stuff regarding literacy and community building in the schools. We've had her on before, so looking forward to have her on. So let's dive into one of the topics that we have.
Lots happening this week. A lot of things happening. I
Yeah.
started off talking about just being grateful about having good health, and thinking of our former president, Biden, just keeping him in prayer, especially being elderly and being diagnosed with prostate cancer. It is
Hey,
not.
you know what, Doc? I mean, there has been issue with respect to this, whether or not was this detected before they didn't let people know. That's the conspiracy. That's the conspirators out there just thinking about, you know, they knew about it. They wanted to cover it up, and especially if you listen to Fox, you know. So I mean, irrespective of that, there's really no common decency or courtesy. If the individual has been diagnosed, just leave it alone without trying to create some sort of controversy or some conspiracy theory, about it, man. Politics has gotten really into the gutter, man, where you can't, just human decency, man. If the general, he has cancer, you know what? Hey, let's let's pray for him. Pray that he gets better. We're not concerned about if they knew, who knew what they knew. So
Mhm.
it has become an issue, which it shouldn't be an issue. That's why
Yeah,
politics is, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, it's true because the thing is, the overall thing we're praying for the man's health. It doesn't matter if you found out 20 years ago, 10 years ago,
Hmm.
yesterday, today. We just want him to be in good health. Just wishing him well, praying for him that, he go through that process. Going through cancer or going through chemo is not an easy
Not
task.
easy at all, man. Not easy at all.
As we look at we look at Roderick, what he been through. He's a
But he
true.
continues to go through at times.
Yeah,
Exposure.
that it's not only the person who's going through cancer that's
It's
suffering,
the
it's
family.
everybody surrounding them.
And
So
Roderick is
that's
he's
I know
commenting
he's
and
on the
watching.
plane. Our
Yeah.
fearless leader
And he's
gets his
watching.
plane.
He's
He's
watching and
watching.
commenting.
I see him. He's over here commenting and putting all types of craziness in the chat as he sit on the plane, and I'm watching him on the plane. But I'm gonna put you on. I don't care. Look.
Make sure you're muted. So. Oh, you
This
have the
is
headphones. The plain people, I'm supposed to give you headphones.
yeah. So here it is. He decides he's gonna join us from the plane to be on the show. That is commitment. We talk about commitment.
That ain't commitment. That's narcissism. That ain't no commitment. That's narcissism.
Oh God.
And
Yeah, we can hear your mouth just a little bit.
y- you know, speaking of, oh, you're very low. Wow. Okay, just to mention that.
Who's that? Oh, yes, the congressman. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No.
It's not like he put himself in danger.
Roger, I agree with you 100%. You know, what's interesting is, as you say that, I was at the I was at the ophthalmologist yesterday with my eyes, and I saw a friend of mine, and I didn't recognize him at first, and then he mentioned, we started talking, then he mentioned that his mother passed away, and I couldn't get it. I said, you know what, text me your information. And when he texted me information, then I realized his mother was Elizabeth King. We used to call her Elizabeth Atwood. And he talked about his mother got diagnosed with cancer in January, and by April she was gone. And she was 64 years old.
Yeah,
So that's something you don't politicize your health. And it comes to the point where they politicize what's going on, especially the Republicans, especially Fox News. You know, let's be concerned about him getting well. But you're right, Roderick. Until it happens to them, it's going to be it's going to be a joking matter until it happens to them.
they want to sell paper, they want to sell viewership, and I don't know. That's just not right. Too many of us are suffering. Um, like Joanne, you're 100%. It's not just the people who has cancer and stuff. I say all the time. In my case, my wife has it really hard as a caretaker, right? Because those people have, like poor Dr. Jill Biden, who has now, as a family, who have to take care of him, whoever is taking care. But I think it is hard work, right? It is extremely hard work, right? That person plus the caretaker. Well, Jill Biden might even go out before me because she's not a pup. You know what I'm saying? That added stress. And, I think it's very that the Republican Party is doing this. So we'll see what's going on. But anyway, how is everybody doing, by the way?
Well, we should ask you, Mr. On the Plane.
Well, I missed my flight. That's why I'm on the plane. If I didn't miss my flight, I'll be in New York already.
Where are you coming from? You want to share with people where you're coming from?
Or is it work or is it vacation as usual?
No, he doesn't take vacation. Remember, he doesn't take vacation.
No, that's not true. I would say this was kind of a vacation. I would say that. But
either it's a vacation or not a vacation, not a kind of vacation.
Kind of, because it was an opportunity for me to go and see. I saw family, I saw friends that I hadn't seen in a long time. Although I was kind of busy running around every day doing something else. So every day I was putting in 2 to 4 hours of driving every day. So it's not like, but I got an opportunity. My aunt turned 80, so I was able to see that family. I went to go see my cousin yesterday. Saw a couple of friends. So though I was busy, it was more vacation. I didn't go there for Domino's.
Yeah, he had a vacation, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm glad you're hearing this on May 22nd. That Roderick went on vacation, and we'll see next month where he goes.
I didn't say full vacation because again, vacation is about relaxation. The only reason why I'm going to say kind of vacation is because I didn't have to go see everybody that I go see, but I haven't seen them in over a year. It's like,
all right,
John,
Mr. Vacation Man.
But I have a question, John. If you go to Ghana for 10 days, and every day you went to go see another family,
it's still vacation.
Why?
If I go to Guyana every day, I'll see family members from the time I get off the plane in Guyana to the time I leave.
And then you're traveling from Berbice to Georgetown to Linden to all of these places every day, right? I would say yes, it's kind of vacation because you took time off from work. That's why I call it vacation.
Well, you just try, like you say, if you can take a moment to just relax, you can. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's fine. That's why I call it vacation. But in terms of, I I tell everybody I consider vacation when you don't have no plans. When you get up
Okay.
and you
While
chill.
you know what? I'm thinking, Roger.
I think you need a vacation. That's what I think.
Oh,
I
I
like
need a
to have a
vacation.
yes.
Absolutely, I need a vacation. I do. I do. You know, what type of plane are you on? Are you on a jet?
Hold on. I am
Are you
on.
on the new?
I'm an Airbus 321.
Oh, okay. So it's
Delta.
not the one from Qatar.
No, no, no. I was in Jamaica. Why would I be taking a plane from Qatar? Here.
Listen, some people have it like that. Some people have it like that. You could go from
That would be cool.
Jamaica to Dubai, Dubai to Jamaica. It's not
That would be all you. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Brian is just cheap. That's why she don't take trips. It ain't got nothing to do with nothing else but the fact that she cheap. I don't
no.
say I don't say you have kids because I have five of them. Don't use your kids as an excuse
No, my friend. That has nothing to do with me
because you're cheap.
traveling or not traveling. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna mute him for now because So there's a couple things we want to touch before our guest comes on.
We're gonna
And I know that she's already here. So
she's scheduled for 8 o'clock. But we have the
we
other
have
the
a
other
couple
thing that
topics.
happened, the Mexican
Let me
the,
tell you,
the
I was
Mexican
downtown Brooklyn
Mhm.
during that time when it happened. I kept
It's
hearing
insane.
helicopters, helicopters, and I was like, something happened. So it wasn't
What was the
until
final? What was the final death toll?
two,
Was
Yeah,
it
it says two,
two
but
people
there's
died?
multiple injuries.
two actually died, and 19 were hurt. But
Anyone
here
in
it
critical?
is.
Anyone in critical?
I'm sorry.
Anyone in
Critical.
critical condition right now? Or you don't know?
Um, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. Yeah, because a lot of them that actually were on the boat, they went back home. They mentioned. So it's a shame because they were standing on top of the mast that fell down. It looks beautiful, but it's very dangerous. It's actually
But
shocking that they would be doing that on the water. It remind
so
me
let me
of,
ask you.
huh?
No, I just want to know.
Because you know how when you go to a circus, you're on those high wires, high bar, or whatever. But being on those little tiny things in water is, that's a chance you're taking. I like the water. I like to be high, but I'm not courageous enough to do that.
You
Who
said you
said
like
I
to be
was
high,
innocent?
Doc?
Yeah,
Oh boy.
you got jokes, Lord Jesus.
one of the things that they're investigating really is the tugboat and engine failure. So they're saying that that could be a possible reason, but there's investigation happening. Um, but it was very harrowing to see it. It was
Mhm.
very it's crazy.
But you know what? From the crash in Maryland should have been an example of certain boats not being allowed to go next to bridges. Um, and if you're a certain height, how to prevent. So there should be more cautious, more safety measures on the water
I agree.
because yeah, these things happen.
Right.
I agree. And so, speaking of that, we're gonna pretty much bring up back the immigration workshop. It's coming next week, May 29 to time is 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at PS 235 Janice Murray Night School. Join us for the free immigration workshop. Provide important updates on just immigration policy, pathways to residency or citizenship, and how to access available resources. Right. So if you're seeking guidance, either for yourself or for a loved one, you can come to this location for the free workshop. You know, ask questions, get informed. All right. So again, May 29th, 6 to 8 p.m. Um, you know, so come through.
Yes. One important thing that we have to be mindful of is that new bill that passed today. The big, beautiful bill,
Mhm.
It only passed the House and only passed the House
Yeah, the
by
Senate.
one vote.
Yeah,
the Sen.
going to the Senate right now. So, um, so the in lieu of Naomi coming on, thumbs up if you're ready. Right, really just gonna highlight literacy and really just go into discussion about you know, when she was here before talking about dyslexia and literacy and just community building in school, and you know, let her speak on
Yeah,
it.
that was before the school opened.
Yeah, so let her speak on it.
Welcome, welcome, welcome back, Miss Pena.
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be back here.
Hello.
Welcome.
Yes. Oh, okay.
What you
That's
doing?
where next week meet us in person at the Janice Night School, PS 235. Hopefully you should come through. Miss Yeah, you should come through.
Yeah, what you guys are doing? What are you guys doing over there?
Live
Working?
in person, immigration forum.
That's amazing. Definitely. Send me the info. I'll be there.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you the
Okay.
flyer.
Yeah,
Definitely.
please.
Definitely. So welcome, welcome, welcome. For those who don't know, we have Miss Naomi Pena on. I'm going to allow her to fully introduce because we're not going to do justice. You're not just a parent advocate, but introduce yourself to our listeners, those who know you, those who don't know you. Reintroduce
Thank you.
yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here to talk with you all about education and literacy. My name is Naomi Pena. I am one of the co-founders and director of family and community engagement for Literacy Academy Collective. We are a school support nonprofit organization that was founded originally by 7 women. I'm one of them, who collectively have 11 dyslexic children. And while we're all massively different in our economic and racial and, you know, life career backgrounds, we all identically had the same experience trying to navigate the public school system and getting supports for our children. So my personal story is I have 4 children. My oldest is 25. So I lovingly say I've been in this game for a little bit in the parenting space. And all 4 of my children have dyslexia and they struggled. And with every kid, I learned a little bit more. And by the time my youngest kid was in the 4th grade, I knew more, so I had to do more. And the experience of taking him out of a public school into a private school to get him to read was offensive to me. I didn't want to do that. And I decided with these other group of women to do something different. So we did. So I lovingly say we advocated, aggravated, and agitated the Department of Education to listen to us for 5 years to get a school opened to support students who had dyslexia or other language-based learning disabilities. And 3 years ago, we opened up South Bronx Literacy Academy, PS 642. And I'm happy to say we are on our way to school number 2 with PS 929, Central Brooklyn Literacy Academy, that's going to open up in Crown Heights. So we're on our way to doing the work, but we have to continue to talk about the work because, while we understand literacy is important, not a lot of people know why it's important or why we have to, what to look for. So that's why I'm excited that I get to do this.
So how was it opening up the school in the South Bronx?
It is not for the faint of heart.
Okay. Elaborate.
I think, people, they're New York City is the biggest public school system in the country. And it's big and it's complicated and it's a big messy onion of layers and people. and it was hard to get people to understand why this mattered. So first is getting an administration that wanted to talk about it, and then wanting to do something about it, right? If you're gonna be about it, let's do something. So it and that's why creating a public school is hard, because there's unions, there's regulations, there's processes. So quite frankly, we could have turned it into a charter school, but we decided no, we like headaches and nightmares and fights.
Wait. I think you might have want to create what your children didn't receive to bring
1000%.
back.
1000%. Like we wanted to create a public school to support families in the system, to support students who live in the community, and the only way to do that was to get it done. So we took the hardest road possible, and I'm happy to say we did it once, and we're crazy enough to do it again, and we want to keep doing it again. We want to have a school in every borough. So at the very least, we're going to be crazy to do it twice more.
Oh boy. Kudos to you in that space. And kudos.
Ms. Pena, what type of red tape did you face in trying to get this established? Was the mayor's, the board of education helpful? Were they supportive? You got roadblocks, Can you tell the listeners, the process that you had to go through?
I think one thing that people don't understand is when you're voting for the mayor, it matters, and particularly in education in New York City, because we have something called mayoral control. So if you have a mayor who, doesn't really care about public schools, they're probably going to govern in a way to not fund public schools or not center the needs of the public school family. So, the Bloomberg years, unfortunately, is a testament to that, because he viewed everything as a business, and he viewed public schools the same way. So, one thing I want to ground for the listeners is this is an election year. Yes, we're thinking about all parts of the city, but it matters so much who runs New York City, particularly in education, because they literally have the power of the pen. They can kill and approve anything. So while I have my opinions about the current mayor, the one thing that I can agree with him on was literacy, because he had a really compelling story of what it was like to be a Black boy in the classroom, and he was dyslexic. And when someone carried that experience of not being able to read, and the way you were treated literally carries on forever. So, when you have
And please, correct. You are totally correct when you say that you have to really look at people who have your agenda, who understand your issues and concerns when it comes to education. And not everybody does that. Everybody can talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. As you said, this mayor, despite his issues, despite whatever, if you put all that behind, and if you look at the things that he has created or has done, it has been very helpful to a lot of minorities, men, women, in getting opportunity not only in education but in economic opportunities. I just wanted to just throw that out.
Yeah. So before the current mayor was a mayor, we were engaging with the previous administration, and as all politicians, by the end of their last year, they are typically thinking elsewhere. So creating a public school, while everyone was like, great job, no one was willing to give us the green light to open a school. So we knew that we had to focus on a new administration, and look, the stars aligned. It was what needed to happen. This current mayor cared about dyslexia, cared about doing something better, and it just worked out in our favor. So when we pitched what we've been trying to do for 3 years, almost 4 years prior, they were all in, and it made our lives easy. But before that, the concept of what we were doing was so novel that they were like, what do you mean we need to teach kids how to read a different way? What do you mean dyslexia? What does that mean? Can you explain? Like, it was, people understood it, but they didn't get it. And they were like, oh, dyslexia is reversing letters. We're like, no, it's not.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of deep learning that needed to happen. And it was very clear that
Can
there was
you
no
you
will.
just mentioned something. And for those who don't know what dyslexia is, can you elaborate on that portion?
Yes. So dyslexia is a neurological condition, meaning in the brain, where the person is having a hard time connecting the sounds of letters to the letter and blending them. So when I'm talking about dyslexia, I have a slide that identifies the regions of the brain. There's 4 regions of the brain that need to talk to each other. They're like wires that need to be connected in order for it to process. And each region of the brain does something different. So one region of the brain processes the visual of the word. Another region of the brain, literally, when I say the word bird, you'll be able to by syllable identify the word bird. And then there's a part of the brain that actually stores the word.
Mhm.
And those regions need to talk to each other in order for it to work. And in someone that has dyslexia, they have a hard time with those those parts of their brains connecting to be able to decode language and process it.
That's true. Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
So, for those who don't know, she just explained what dyslexia is, because you are correct. A lot of people think that reversals are automatic dyslexia, and it might not be.
But
So,
there's little tips that
yeah.
I often say to people.
Mhm.
If you have a child that is struggling to tie their shoe, and this is like past first grade, they're probably dyslexic. If
Hmm.
you have a child that's having a hard time telling time, like actually with the clock, the analog with the hands, they're probably dyslexic. Interesting enough, it's because it's all connected to the parts of the brain that you need to activate language, and also with the clock, it's about spatial and time. But it's one of those interesting things that I think if the pediatric world was looking at these things as part of the wellness check, we would be able to identify more dyslexics rather than have them walking around undiagnosed.
Thank you. Thank you. I have some other questions for you. Andre, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
I would say go, but I guess also, some of the questions I will send you, I feel like you answer a few there. But in terms of even just seeing more systematic changes implemented citywide to better support the students with learning differences, even as you think of the reason you started this mission. So I guess what's some of those systematic changes you would like to see?
I know there's been a lot of talk of diagnosing dyslexia, and like at least there's screeners that are in place currently, and the screeners don't diagnose dyslexia. I think this is one of the things we need to
The
drill
misconception.
down.
Mhm.
There is no screener that's happening in New York City public schools. They're saying, oh, your child is dyslexic, you should do this thing. It's actually a screener that's saying your child is at risk for dyslexia based on the fact that they're struggling to read or decode. So it's just kind of like a warning flag. It's not an identification tool. In order to be identified you need to have a neuropsychological, which is massively expensive and out of reach for the vast majority of the population.
So how would people go about in doing that if they want to check out if their child is dyslexic?
I was about to
So
ask that too.
if you suspect your child's dyslexic, the first thing you need to do is go to the pediatrician and say, my child's having a hard time decoding language, reading, etc. And then they will start doing the referrals. The issue with referrals to a neuropsych is that not everyone takes insurance. And the folks that do, there's typically a wait time. But at the end of the day, if you need to get that, you need do the wait because you will need it. And it actually helps. You know, the other key, and this is how we got created, is okay, if you can identify everyone with dyslexia, then what?
Yes.
You know, we have to have the practices in the classroom to teach structured literacy, which has been the scientific proven model to support students. And by the way, it helps 95% of all students. So it's not just for dyslexics, it helps everyone. So because public schools were using a different approach for so long that wasn't based in science, this is how we got creating the first school for literacy centered around literacy and structured literacy, so we can get the outcomes that we need for our students. But in my ideal world, I wish we can do structured literacy everywhere. We can get kids reading, and we won't have to have schools. There's private schools that exist. I mean, our school model is partnered after these private schools that, you know, it's $85,000 a year to send your kid to. And it shouldn't be something that's just for the elite. It should be for everyone.
True. That's true. Now, you mentioned that if you get on a wait list, then, you know, you speak to your pediatrician, and sometimes they put you on a wait list to screen. If they don't have a wait list and the parents want to get it done, what is the typical price of these assessments?
Neuropsychologicals can go anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000.
Okay.
And it's an extensive. So just so you know what it looks like, it is not something that you go in for 30 minutes and you walk out. It is actually an extensive battery of exams. For instance, when my son had it, I lucked out. I got someone that was willing to take some payment plans for me to pay for it. And it was over the course of 4 visits for my son. He was much younger, so his stamina wasn't the best. So it took longer for him. And it was about 3 to 4 hours each visit, because it's a battery of tests, and it starts easy and then it gets harder. So, and it's on purpose because they want to see how much your child can process. And it's about everything. It's language, processing time, attention, everything, because you're going to walk out with a full diagnosis.
That's something. That is something. So you were able to diagnose all of your babies. And I heard another thing. I know I heard this a while ago, that if one parent had to at least be dyslexic for the child to be dyslexic. Is that correct or no?
Dyslexia is highly genetic. So if you have a child, you know, I say this to teachers and administrators, when there is a child in that classroom that is having a hard time reading, there is a high likelihood that there's an adult in that child's life that also is struggling to read. It is genetic. It is genetic in nature. That is why it's a neuropsychological condition. In my household, my children's father is severely dyslexic, but undiagnosed. He's lived his entire lifetime just thinking he's dumb and stupid. And it's not until that I've started to do this work that he's come to terms with, I am not dumb and stupid. I am just an adult who was not given the proper tools to be a functioning literate, because when you cannot decode or have language comprehension, you are a functioning illiterate. So it's there, and I try to elevate that, because for so long, when I was in this space trying to advocate for my own babies, they always told me, well, are you reading to your child? Do you have enough books? And of course I can read, But had I said that to my children's father, he would be ashamed to actually say he could not read, because when an adult can't read is shameful. No one's walking around going, "Hey, that's me. I can't read."
Ms. Pena, and you said something that if you look at if you look at a lot of the prison population that's incarcerated, quite a few of them are dyslexic, which
It's up to
resulted in
50%. Up to 50% are dyslexic.
Wow. You know, I have a relative who had felt that they were dyslexic as well, and you know, they go and get those the books, like if it's a self-diagnosis, and
Self-diagnosis.
yeah, you know, and I mean, you know, even similar, like even for me, really, not this necessarily dyslexia, but like even you know ADD, saying that I have it, and after I do my studies, you know, once you start doing the work and you start saying, wait a minute, you know, and even years before, I had a student who I seen them write and flip the letters, and you know, this is when I was just a newbie, um, and I'm wondering, as you said, that a parent may be in the same fashion, like how I guess in a sense, how does the parents realize, or how do you able to kind of communicate that, you know, the student, when I would kind of really say, okay, let's really sit down and focus, because I didn't think it was dyslexia at first, just looking back, but having them really, you know, sit down and try to do the reading, the kid would read well. And so then now I say to myself, what's going on here? Because in one instance, you're killing it. And then the other instance is like, no motivation, what's going on? It was quite something there. But I guess how how do you communicate with a parent in a sense, um, regarding what's going on with their kid?
I have learned to be a detective a little bit, because, like I said, if an adult is struggling to read, they're not going to tell you that.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And we have that. We do have that a lot.
yeah. So I first try to. They will give you clues. So when you're talking to them, they may share how hard it was for them in school. That's a first clue. If you are trying to communicate with a parent in written form, emails, text messages, and they don't write back, they rather a phone call, that's another clue. If I already know when kids are coming to register and the parents bring someone to fill out the paperwork, you know, and it says it's not obvious. It's like, oh, you know, it's a partner or whatever, a friend, and you know, they'll be like, oh, let me fill that out for you. You know, that's also a clue. So what I've tried to do is, when I'm in those spaces talking about this stuff, I try to first hyper personalize it, because oftentimes people are very ashamed, and they're not gonna share that they can't read. So try to build that trust first is helpful. And then once they're able to say, yeah, you know, I struggle with reading too, then they'll know. They often know when their kid is struggling, because they see it. They see themselves in their child. What the conflict is, as a parent, you don't know what to do. Like, what do you do? I can read, and I couldn't teach my kid to read. I'm not a teacher. I don't do that. So I think is having that conversation in a very delicate way, and like picking up on those small clues that will tell you, wait, this parent is probably also, and also the way they write. When I get parents who fill out forms and you can tell that there is a literacy gap, that's also the clue that I need, that there needs to be a conversation then in written form, because, and that's actually something that I'm grappling with now, is how do I reach the parents?
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. How do you engage with the parents who feel disconnected, overwhelmed, or who just don't feel a part of, or if they have to deal with special ed process? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, you know, This is the piece that I'm currently grappling with, because there is, for instance, there's a parent who's interested in one of our schools. She's not from this country. Her native tongue is indigenous, so she
Mm,
can speak an indigenous language. She can write in indigenous language. Does not speak English, and she only speaks Spanish conversationally. So you can't even send communications in Spanish to her because she's not going to be able to read it. So
We have
I've been
a
grappling.
lot of
I've been
situations like
grappling.
that.
Yeah. So she's actually going to be my push, because I've been thinking, like, how do I get this? How do I get this done? But this is actually, this summer is going to be the summer that I solve that. Like, I've always been saying, we have to have a voice or video feature. Like,
Mhm.
I don't care what it is. Like, we have to have some sort of communication mechanism
Mhm.
that we pilot through our schools as a way to engage, because there's multiple ways of engagement to families. You have to be written, it has to be spoken, and some people are visual learners, right?
Yep.
We have to create some visual space for them to process the information too. So that's actually been something that it's going to force me to get down to a solution this year before the
Mhm.
September.
I want to add on to what you're saying. You're speaking about the parent. So when you are dealing, and I constantly say this, when you deal with a child, you're not only dealing with that child, you are dealing with the family, you're dealing with their community. So now, if that parent doesn't or do not have any background on literacy, guess what? Not only are you teaching the child how to build on that literacy portion, but you also got to teach the parent in order to move that child forward. So it takes a united, and it really does take a village, from the school to the community to the parent to the students to the teachers, in order to move and make movement. And
Yeah.
especially, it's so important. I'm going to reiterate, the work that you're doing is so necessary and so important, because it's getting harder and harder in the United States, especially at a time when they are cutting every type of service that is available to build people, to equalize individuals who might be struggling or who might have a disability. So it is important to support the work that you're doing. Listeners, listen up. We need to support different organizations that support different learners, because the more we build folks, the more we educate, we promote, and they can become productive individuals in society and advocate for others as well. So, yeah, so good luck with that. And we got no, seriously, because that's something that is work on our end. We're finding that more and more in the education field, we're finding that more and more parents, families are coming in not having the first language skills, not having that literacy component, being adults, not having that educational background, or might have a combination of two, three different languages together, but nothing written or nothing where they write or read in that. So it is something. And then you have children with the same issue, because at home, same thing is happening. They're speaking, and there's a combination of all types of things. Unfortunately, we're seeing that with many of our migrant families that's coming in. So you're dealing with disability, but you're also dealing with a whole nother level that, like you said, you're doing the research on.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I love to do, part of my job is literally the education piece. So when I have parent workshops, when I'm going out into the community and talking about it, like I have a slide that's all about true and false. Like, true
Mhm.
and false is this and this. So, and every time I do that, people are always like, "Huh? What? That's not true. That's false. What?" And then I also have a slide about like behaviors that children exhibit when they're trying to hide something they can't do. So from
Yes.
acting out to, you know, putting their head down on the table or pretending to want to go to the bathroom, these are all signs that children in their limited vocabulary are screaming to the adults there is something wrong. And I find it fascinating every time I do these workshops with all sorts of people, from teachers, principals to parents, that they go, oh, okay. I think unfortunately, we have to admit the biases that we carry. And there's often biases of like, oh, that child is X or Y. And we have to sometimes understand that there are signs along the way that are screaming in our faces, and we are dismissing them for whatever reason. But when you give more information to families, that's power. And now they have the language and the vocabulary to say, hey, I heard about structured literacy in this workshop. Are you doing that? Or I heard that you need this, this, and this. Are you doing that? Because if you demand
Yes.
it, the
Then,
administration has to answer to you. That is their job. They have to answer
absolutely.
to you. So
Now, so when are you having these workshops? Talk
I
to us
have
about it.
them as many as I'm willing to have. I think I use the ground level type of organizing. So I go to community boards. I'm actually going to community board 14 to present to their executive
Oh,
board.
wait. Our fearless
Always, man.
leader is
He's
a
off right now.
community board director. He was on the plane, so
Yeah.
you need to
Ah,
reach out to him.
We could
which
do
one?
some
Which
sort
community
of
board?
community thing too.
Yes,
Community board
our
17.
fearless leader.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So I think of information as hyper local. So I go to community boards, I go to, community education councils. We have, as a school support organization, Department of Education asks us to do workshops at their conferences. So I do that because ultimately, and I even go to schools. So when PTAs want me to do something, or the PD for leadership, because ultimately we need to arm as many people as possible with this
Yes.
information.
Yes, I agree. So we're gonna plug in Mr. Daly about having you at one of the community board.
And I also want to center, like, ultimately this is what was mentioned by John before. Like, ultimately, this is about breaking cycles that are
Yes.
generational, right? So when you
Mhm.
have generation, and I say this often, this country has a really ugly history of limiting who can read. And reading is a deep civil right. Like, it is the
Mhm.
information that you need to access the world and also to escape
Mhm.
it. If you want to read a good book and go into a different realm, you can do that. But when you don't empower someone to be able to access language in that way, you
Mhm.
start creating the pipelines to prisons that we often say we want to break, but don't
Mhm.
put the forth. And that the irony is that if someone commits a federal crime, the first thing they do when they walk in is that they assess them for dyslexia. And then there
Um,
they will learn how to read, because now they have a structured literacy based program in federal prisons to teach people how to read. But the irony is, if they're released, they can't do the fundamental right of voting because it's been stripped away from them. So you're giving them the power of language, but you've now eliminated something else that's just as powerful, which is to vote. So I think we need to center how important literacy is and
mhm.
ground it in the fact that we have the majority of those who can't read and write. Often, it's the spectrum. But if we talk about structured, what society structures are, often who sits in jails are Black and brown people. So we are, and often male. So we are enabling a prison system to foster these individuals and not giving them the tools they need to be able to become productive citizens of this country because we are not investing in them when it should start in the classroom, but we rather spend it later when they're behind the bars.
Mm-hmm. So I want to go back before you became this big
But you know
time.
what? But you know what, Penn? You said something very profound, meaning that they won't spend the money on the front end, but they'll spend the money on the back end, which is when you go to prison.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, why not? Why not? And if you know what the problem is and the issues are, why not invest at this point in time? Why not? And if you think about it, you really got to sit and think about it. Why do we invest? It's like we don't invest into preventive measures. We we
Mm-hmm.
invest in we invest in the act after things have already occurred, but when we know they already exist, so why not nip it in the bud? But there's a lot of other reasons why situations like this exist, and it's
1000%.
more it's more so, if you look at the economic benefit of it,
Yeah.
so it's widespread. Yeah, it's very, very interesting what you just said.
It costs
Mm-hmm.
more money to house an inmate than to teach
Sometimes
them
figure out a way.
than,
That's a good
than
way
the
to
cost.
control the population.
Yeah, than
Mm-hmm.
to cost than the average education in the classroom, and that's intentional. I mean, when we were thinking about COVID, for instance, who was making the mass amounts of hand sanitizers in New York State? Prisoners. So there is an economic piece to this for sure. And we could talk about Amendment 13 and all of that, but I think if we were to do this the right way, we will immediately be able to close, not immediately, but if we would be able within a generation to close down a lot of prisons because they will sit empty.
Mm. Now that is something to think about.
And you also see where all the prisons are populated at. Think
Mm-hmm.
about that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that.
Yep.
Wow. It's something. Oppression, a setup for you to be oppressed. Huh. Yeah, that was a little too deep.
But it's all
But-
connected,
yeah,
that
but it's the truth. It's the
this
truth.
is this is why when I tell people about stuff, they're like, I don't do politics. I often say, well, then you don't do life, because life is everything you do in life is political, from where you live
Mhm.
to what groceries are near you, if you have a grocery store or you have a bodega or a deli, what train
But
to buy you.
my opinion, but that's my point with us. That's our point, is the lack of civic involvement, voting, to give us an opportunity to rectify some of these situations. And one thing that I can say that the current president said, if you look at all these urban cities, the majority in the legislatures who controls them are people of color. Just think about it. So if that's the case, then why are we not getting the resources that we need to rectify these situations?
I also think it's about money. So, that
I was
piece
about to say
I can tell you about that piece,
the
um,
politics. No,
yeah,
go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, there needs to be a will. And I will tell you, when we were trying to advocate for this, people were like, what do you mean? What do you want to do? And how much money is that? And we don't, that's a lot of money. And I don't understand why we need to invest more in this. Why can't we just do this other thing that's cheaper? But, in order, there's that saying, you pay what you get for, right? So if you go to the 99-cent store and get yourself, a bag, it's going to fall apart, versus if you were to go to, a designer store that's meant to last you a longer time.
Well, we
And
know Miss Pena about designer stores now. We know about them now. Where they get them from? China.
exactly. But ultimately, like, it costs money to reap good results. And if you do things right the first time, you will see the results, and then you won't have to invest so much money in it. Like, it's, over time, the system runs itself. So there needs to be an awareness to many things. And oftentimes when people hear money that's attached to things, it becomes a deterrent.
Mhm.
Like, I know we're talking about literacy, but when we're talking about, crime prevention programs,
Yeah.
those see results, but no one wants to invest in it because they don't want to pay. They rather continue to have crime. So it's similar in our space. We, as a non-profit, we are, we work with tons of foundations that believe in our vision, and some, some private donors, but
Mhm.
it's part of the reason why we do this, because we have to justify why we're doing this, and we also have to show the results. And thankfully, we're showing great results even after the first initial year. And I think people are just not used to something different, even if it costs a little bit more to reap good results. Because I think also people are so disenfranchised. People tell me all the time, I don't know why you're doing this. It's when I first started doing this, like, you're not gonna get the change you want. And that's the problem, is that our communities are so disenfranchised. They're so used to not being heard,
Yeah.
that the very thought of trying to fight a system
Yeah.
is crazy. They're like, you're never gonna do that. I'm like,
'Cause
well,
you're constantly shown the defeat,
right.
and one of the things I've always seen too. I mean, go back decades, 60s. We got big civil rights movement, and some of the things that we're experiencing right now, it doesn't necessarily make sense that we're experiencing it, because we have a system that's still in place. But one of the things you really highlight, or you implied, is that you have to be that change that you want to see. And to top it off, the change comes as a result of community support. The village, this is why we're here. You work with others. Yes, you talk about a vision, but you also show the dedication, and here you are, right? 3 years later, and then of course the next mission, you want to get more schools in different boroughs. Um, so kudos to you. You're really at push. I remember when you were on that first time, and look at this. So
It was
it's
more than once, She
yeah,
and her crew came up more than once.
I remember.
So
So
it
so
started
definitely,
from parent advocacy,
yeah.
that part.
So we thankful for that, and I think as more people hear the stories, more people hear the success, more people will jump on to the movement itself, because they're seeing the accomplishments. Now it's sad that they had to see these results so far, where we could just start from the beginning. But either way, the progress is being made. Progress is being made, and that's happiness too. So that's always good.
So wait, let me ask you a question. Why Crown Heights?
Good question.
As an organization, we are deeply committed to two things. We are deeply committed to the mission that literacy is a civil right,
Mm-hmm.
and we are deeply committed to making sure that marginalized communities that have been dismissed, ignored, have access to the kinds of schools that they deserve.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to be in communities that oftentimes don't have the choice for whatever reason. And so we actually ourselves, we did some outreach in we looked at the data for Brooklyn ourselves.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
saw the populations that existed, and then we did outreach to those different school districts. And we landed in school district 17 in Crown Heights, who was like, we want you and we want you here. And it worked out that, we got sort of the support of the Department of Education to do that. And that's how we got there.
How does someone screen? Is there a screening process? How do they become a part of your school? Or for,
Yes.
hey, a parent realize, hey, my child has dyslexia. What would be the step for them to register or to, is it simple test? Is it, a testing? What do they have to do? They have to have an IEP to come to your school?
No.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the design of the school is meant to be barrier free, because not
Okay.
everyone knows, not everyone has access. So you do not need an IEP. You do not need an evaluation. You just need to be a child that is struggling to read. New York City Public Schools has a screener that all schools have been doing for the last year and a half, 2 years. So there's something called the Cadence screener, but unfortunately, the school system is not sharing. They're not at a point where they're giving that data to families just yet. I think I'm not in the I'm not in the elementary level anymore. So I have young adults, teenagers now. So what we do is that we just want a kid that's struggling to read, point blank. Now, if there's a parent that's interested, shameless plug, you can apply now. It's through your My Schools portal. And if you're in the Bronx or in Brooklyn, you have preference for the school, you would need to go into your My Schools portal and submit an application. You will see both schools listed and you just submit. And then we actually call in families for an open house where they will meet the principal, they get to see the space, and we actually do an internal like round 2 assessments just to confirm the level of struggle that they're in, if you will. Basically, we want the kids that fail the test. If a kid
So what
comes
if
to
they
us,
don't fail the test?
if
Would they
they
be
don't
accepted?
if they don't fail the test, that means they can read, and we're not an appropriate school for them, because we are doing foundational skills. Like, some kids are coming to us learning the sounds of ABC. Some kids are coming to us learning how to read the word cat. Some kids are coming to us needing to, spell out larger complex words. So, like, we need a kid that is struggling to read, because if the kid can read, they're going to get bored with us. Like, we're doing foundational skills. It's not an appropriate setting. So that's why we do the level 2 of assessments. And then there's a lottery. So over the summer, there's going to be a lottery. There's a lottery process through New York City Public Schools. They will communicate that offer. But over the summer, there's over-the-counter enrollment. So as the family puts in their application, we will be calling them in, doing that assessment on our own. And if it's a good fit, they get a spot.
Now, what's the age group? Because now I'm thinking there's some middle school students who actually can't read.
I know.
There are some high school students who actually can't read beyond just the elementary. So what's the age group?
So our school will be eventually, as it grows, will be a 2 to 8. We start in 2nd grade because you can't really tell reading struggles in 1st grade. They're still learning. But by the end of 1st grade, you can really identify a child that's having a hard time with letter sounds and decoding simple words like cat. At South Bronx, we have 2nd, 3rd, and we'll have a 5th next year. In Central Brooklyn, we're starting out, so it'll be 2nd and 3rd grade. But we will grow up to 8th grade. I will tell you personally, the piece that hurts my heart the most is that I can't. So many families are reaching out to me. My child's in 6th grade. My child's in 8th grade. What do I do? And it's a hard conversation of, like, I can't help you, which is the piece that breaks me, because I want to be able to help every child that comes to me. But that's the advocacy piece that I know. I'm like, all right, well, this is what you need to do. Talk to your pediatrician, get a neuropsychological, like here's the questions you need to ask your school. What are you doing about structural literacy? So I'm empowering that family to ask the right questions as well, and to seek, what they need. But it breaks my heart that I can't help them just yet. But we'll get there.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So this is good stuff, man. It's good stuff.
Well, thank you
So
for
okay.
having me. I'm excited.
So grades two. So if you have a first grader who's struggling, they could apply now. So for example, you open up in September. You're gonna have, is it by, is it, you'll have a second grade, a third grade, all the way up to eighth grade, all in September.
So this year in Central Brooklyn, we'll have second and third grade only,
Okay.
and they'll add a grade every year.
Okay.
In South Bronx, it's a similar model, but this year, next September, they'll have second, third, fourth, and fifth. So they'll have a fifth grade.
Oh, two every year. Okay.
So we'll
Okay.
have one grade every year after that. What's really great about our school too is that we have a small class size. So we have 18 kids per classroom with 2 teachers in the
Excellent.
classroom. And that's
Excellent.
intentional. And that's intentional because
Excellent. Excellent.
we have a 90-minute, as the South
Literacy
Bronx
block.
principal says, she's like, that's our medicine. We have a 90-minute reading and writing block every day. So for 90 minutes, kids are in actual small groups from 4 to 6 students. And they're grouped together, like they're all learning the same skills together with one teacher. And we have enough adults that, so currently in South Bronx, they have 11 reading groups happening in the morning. And so they're doing reading and writing, so that it's not just about reading the word, it's also writing. Like writing matters, and how you form
Mm-hmm.
letters and how you put them
Say that
together,
again. Writing
how you write,
matters.
and how you create a really good sentence. Like one good, because communication besides verbal is also written.
Yes.
And we're in a space where emails are king, and how, if you're having a bad day, when I say what's up could sound very different. So learning what nuances are, tone, all those things matter too, particularly when we want students to be professionals, right? Whatever
Especially
that
in the
profession is.
social media world. Mm-hmm.
So they need to be able to write a really good sentence. Like, I don't want, you can write about anything, but let's write it in a really good way. So what we have found is the students that need that's our kids, start to fly. So another fun fact that happened through our data dive, if you will, we discovered that 100% of our kids in the South Bronx has 0 summer slide. So that means from June to when they showed up in September, they retained what they learned, because it's part of their process. It's part of what their knowledge base. They're not like cramming in information just for a test or just for a subject. So that to us is telling us we're heading in the right direction with them.
It's beautiful.
All
Beautiful.
right. So how do people get in contact with you?
The best way is through email.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, use our general inbox, and it always gets forwarded to me because my email is way too long. But if you do info@literacyacademycollective.org, it all gets to me. So
Did you get that, Andre?
it's a
He's
lot. It's a
putting it
lot,
back.
Andre. info@literacyacademycollective.org. There you go.
Ah, okay, okay. So,
We
um,
appreciate you, so thank you for your work. Thank you for what you do.
the
Yeah.
advocacy, and you know what? It is so important. Parents, your voice is important. Parents, when you go out and fight for your children on the CEC, in the PTA, as a parent, just going to visit your school, your children's school, and then eventually building a school for other children. So it is so important, parents. Your voice matters. Your voice carries weight, and your participation is imperative. We can't make it move without you. So please, please, please get involved. And again, if you would like to reach out to our fabulous Naomi Pena, please reach out to her through info@literacyacademycollective.org. So we will be seeing you again. Hopefully, we see you next week at PS
I
235
I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna pull
in
up and say hi to all
person.
the, yes, I'm gonna pull up and say hi, and maybe we could do a literacy workshop.
Oh yeah,
Okay, let's
Do
let's
that.
do it. Let's
certainly,
do it. So
certainly.
we thank you for coming on this evening. It's always a pleasure having you. Thank you for the jewels that you shared with our listening communities, and wishing you much success in Crown Heights and also the Bronx. We don't forget the Boogie Down Bronx.
Well,
So we look
The other
forward.
goals in the journey. The other goals in
yes,
Yes.
and Queens and Manhattan will soon thereafter. But I just want
Yeah.
to say thank you for allowing the
no
space.
problem.
I love being here, and you guys are so great and always so informative. So, thank you for allowing the conversation.
And we're
No,
gonna
thank
see you
you.
at a community board coming soon,
Yes, we.
right?
If you have me, I will be there. Absolutely,
All
absolutely.
right.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank
Thank you.
you. All
Peace.
Bye.
right. You have a good night. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a few more minutes.
I got about
Let's
five
hang out.
minutes, so we definitely want
Yeah,
to wrap up.
let's hang
Uh,
out. There's a lot going on. Let's talk about it. Andre,
was good.
John, share what's going on.
You got you got the DOJ. Well, not even that.
Wait.
Talk about Trump crypto coin dinner raises questions over access, right? So his meme coin pretty much attracted significant global investments, and it culminated in a luxurious dinner event. Investors spent approximately about $148 million on the coin to secure attendance. Excuse me, with top investors enjoying VIP receptions and exclusive tours.
Remember what we said last week?
Mm-hmm,
People are looking. It's. You're talking about coins, right?
mm-hmm. Crypto.
And dinners and things like that.
Yeah.
Last week they were talking about the planes, the jets.
Mm-hmm.
That hey, the highest bidder will have access to him.
Yeah.
That's a problem because now the world is looking like, hey, I could buy this person.
I mean, yes, and
Yes,
it's not just. I mean, it's a tit for tat. These deals making really. But yeah,
I
it is
don't know if it's
problematic.
a tit for tat.
It's problematic regardless, though. It's
I don't know if
problematic
it's
regardless.
tit for tat. It's other people are
Okay.
looking at this, and it was a conversation last week about the plane. Hey, the highest bidder can have access to him, or
Right.
can be bought. That's a problem.
Yeah, they did say that it's linked. Trump linked entities control 80% of the coins remaining supply, and I've made over 320 mil. And the event has drawn criticism over concerns of potential foreign influence and lack of regulatory oversight. So one of the things it says that some investors have profited and small investors have experienced significant losses, and it raises questions about the fairness of the venture. And one of the things we'd even just invest in here really is that you don't want to just jump into any of these assets without doing proper research. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think when there are people who are losing in investments, really, it's really this aspect of FOMO, fear of missing out.
Mm-hmm.
Ride the wave, and just the coin itself. I mean, what's the value? What value is around that coin? That right there is a lack of due diligence. So all in all, as we have mentioned here, and what we stand for the village about being financially safe, do your due diligence. You got to make sure you do your due diligence really and be mindful what you're investing in, because when them big guys put in and take out, you are left with nothing in the back. So
Mm.
just be mindful. You know.
So I have another question for you.
Mhm.
Last week, we saw the red carpet put out for all the South Africans who suffered underneath the hands of the white South Africans who suffered underneath the hands of South Africa.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
of that. They're being mistreated, the farmers and everything like that. So, this ongoing rival or back and forth intense meeting, this is the second time tense meeting with another president
the
of
African president Cyril Ramaphosa.
yes,
Yeah,
yes. He said there was no genocide, no
yeah,
persecution against,
unverified
you
claims.
know. So he thinks it's crazy that he feels and believes that white South Africans were being persecuted.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know.
yeah. It's like Trump back to his. I mean, not even back to the continuous assertions without verification or lying. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like
Mm-hmm.
Brethren, come on, man. It's a continuous thing with this guy. So we as citizens, we as people who try to be critical, we have to make sure that we and encourage the audience to always make sure that you'll be able to verify the information, whatever you find.
Before.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
verify it before you assert. So that's definitely it. So we're wrapping up now.
Yes. Wait.
And
Any
last,
last word,
look at that.
John?
Knock on the wood. We said that same time. See, right there.
John.
Wishing,
Any last
wishing
word?
everybody Memorial Day, a blessed and safe Memorial Day weekend, and look forward to seeing you back here, same time, same place, on the village.
All
All right.
right. And yes, thank you for your services, for all those who actually fought and laid their life down for freedom. Freedom, freedom, freedom. Be safe this 3-day weekend. And
All right.
God bless you all.
And just a reminder, I'm gonna leave it up on the screen for a little bit after we're gone. But as you know, echoing
Yes.
my colleagues here, have a safe rest of the week. Remember the village here, we're dedicated to empowering the community to live a safe, happy, financial, and healthy life. Right, helping each one of us in accomplishing our goals. Success is not just about speaking; it's about doing. So, what are you doing to make sure that you are successful? Right,
Meeting
village.
us next week. Meeting us next week. That's what they're doing at
Yeah,
PS 235.
I'm going to put it up.
All right, villagers, have a great weekend.
All
All
right,
right. Bye. See you next week, Thursday,
all right.
in
Peace out.
person. Bye.